Bit of news today, shall we say.
I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. No.
Oh boy, Rachel Maddow not actually reacting to the news of Elon Musk possibly buying MSNBC, but probably that's how she would react. We'll talk about that. Plus, some pretty significant news on the Donald Trump legal front. Jack Smith dropping his case. Look at this, NBC had to break into programming.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good day. We're coming on the air with breaking news about President-elect Donald Trump. The Justice Department special counsel Jack Smith just filed a motion to dismiss the federal criminal case against the president-elect over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The news comes after NBC News learned the Justice Department had been planning to wind down its federal cases against Mr. Trump. It also comes as NBC News learned that Smith and his team plan to resign before Mr. Trump returns to the White House.
Never a dull moment. You get Donald Trump heading back to the White House, and things are getting kind of exciting. So exciting that some people may have to be moving around, right? Musical chairs.
We could all be fired a year from now. Whenever this happens, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Elon is looking at buying MSNBC. We're going to get into all of that today, plus the Jack Smith news, plus ABC News possibly up for sale too. Could Elon go for that one too? Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. I hope you had a terrific weekend. I certainly did. I went to see Wicked. I took one of the kids. He leaned over in the middle of the movie and he's like, Mom, is this like woke? I'd say. Plus, it was way too noisy. I'll tell you, these movie theaters do not know how to actually produce a musical in terms of the audio. I think I spent most of the movie. I'm like, is it my age? No. Everybody in the movie theater was like this. I had my hands over my ears for much of it. Anyway, that's Wicked. But somebody who has gotten the label Wicked, the Wicked Witch from time to time, and a few other things would be one, Rachel Maddow. And there's a meme going around online about Elon Musk possibly buying MSNBC, and he actually tweeted something rather crude, a graphic. And so sure enough, another meme comes out, and it's Rachel Maddow. This is from like another point in time where she was reacting to some sadness about migrants, etc. But they're having some fun with it. So check out the lower third. It's AI. They created it. They threw in this graphic, and I left the Elon questionable graphic out, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Take a look.
Hold on.
Ooh, so she's starting to cry. Yep, she's sniffling. She's having a hard time. And of course, you can see they put on the bottom, Elon Musk posts dangerous meme. And then you see her crying and she doesn't quite know what to do about it all. But you know what? Like that could happen, right? Like that's the funny thing. For 2 seconds, you see that thing on Twitter and you're like, wait a second, is this real? I mean, I can completely see her crying. I'm sure she was crying all weekend. I'm sure Joe and Mika were crying all weekend at the idea that Elon Musk could possibly own their company. I have some intel on that and behind the scenes what's going on, but think about it. I mean, entirely plausible. We've seen videos like this.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed.
You got to go
They're alarmed over on The View as well, because Elon Musk might just actually buy one of these companies. MSNBC is getting spun off in what's called SpinCo, this SpinCo entity that probably won't actually show up and be traded for about another year. And there's some tax advantages to doing this, which is why, well, and other advantages, right? Because Comcast has realized it really doesn't want to be with these cable players anymore. It doesn't like this. It doesn't like having to deal with the Joe and Mikas and the Joy Reids of the world and the Rachel Maddows once a week. And so it's saying, okay, is it really worth it? No, it's not. You know, this stuff doesn't make that much money. Take a look at the ratings. They're down 51%. Why don't we say, see you later? They sever the cord. They split off the company in quote unquote SpinCo, by which you get a few cable properties. You get MSNBC, you get CNBC, you get Oxygen, Sci-Fi. They all get rolled up together. Is in there. Bravo, they're keeping. The streaming network, Peacock, they're keeping. And the broadcast network, they're keeping. But everything else is going into this so-called SpinCo. And then they don't have to worry about it anymore. Well, could Elon materialize and just buy that? He theoretically could, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. I mean, if the offer was good enough, he certainly did it with Twitter, right? They had to entertain the idea. It's not like as a board, you can say, well, forget about it. You're Elon Musk. We don't want to have anything to do with you. So, of course, this is torturing the people over at MSNBC. He's having the best time doing it. Don Jr. tweeting out on Friday, and we talked about this, how Comcast is putting MSNBC up for sale. And he said, hey, Elon, I have a really funny idea. And then Elon responded with, hey, how much is it? Which brought everybody back to this time when he did the same thing with Twitter. And he said, how much is it? When someone said, hey, you should buy it. And then he kept the memes going like all weekend long. And then at one point he's like, he tweeted something out that was kind of inappropriate. And he said, sometimes, the option that basically could happen is the one that would be the most funny. In other words, wouldn't it be really, really funny? Everybody thinks so. Check out some of the other memes that made the rounds. There he is, carrying out the computers. And here he is renaming the network to XNBC. So could it happen? Would it happen? I'll tell you this. He certainly wants a free media. He believes in freedom of the press. He believes in freedom of speech. He's said as much over and over again.
To say, if civilization is not strong, if civilization doesn't grow, then nothing else matters. Profits don't matter if civilization collapses. There's no profits. There's no, we cannot exist absent civilization. So sometimes people may say, well, is this an altruistic thing? I mean, I think for me, it feels altruistic, but even if one is not altruistic, even if one is very self-centered, you have to say, if you simply think long-term, you have to be pro-civilization because you cannot exist without civilization. Okay?
How important from 0 to 10?
So a big part of his thesis there is that civilization needs freedom of speech, that you need this diversity of opinion. Obviously, I agree with that. And it's a big part of why he sort of altruistically came along and offered $42 billion up for the likes of Twitter, to which as much as the employees were like, no, please don't let Elon Musk near us. And as much as maybe executives at the company didn't want anything to do with Elon Musk, they didn't have a choice. Because, at the end of the day, there is the Delaware law, which insists that these executives and the board do whatever is best for shareholders in terms of maximizing value. And he made an offer that, let's just say, they could not refuse. So could the same thing happen? That's what's interesting here. Could the same exact thing, of course, he's already talking about who he put in the slot. We'll get to that in a second. But how would this deal go about? I can tell you that he'd have to come up with an offer that Comcast could not refuse. In other words, Brian Roberts, who's chairman of the board there at Comcast, and Mike Kavanagh, who runs the place, would have to say, wow, this is so good that it would be, frankly, a massive lawsuit in terms of shareholders that would come after us if we don't take this deal. So one, he'd have to have a really good offer. Obviously, he could do it. He's the world's richest person. This is like chump change for him. I put the valuation somewhere. I just sort of made it up out of thin air around, 1.2 times earnings. So maybe you could call this company $7 billion. He's got $7 billion. I said, hey, Elon, you'll get CNBC too. Think about it. And sci-fi. Imagine all the great SpaceX programming we could do on sci-fi. So would he really come forward with it? Listen, I mean, you'd have to figure out not just the $7 billion, but what is the tax hit that the company, Comcast, would take if it did this deal earlier. And so then you'd have to add that money in there too. And sure, there would be, a lot of nastiness, etc. But I think it could happen. I think it could happen if he wants it. That's the big question. Does he really, really want this? I mean, let's be honest. Is that really the future? I don't think so. I don't think cable programming is the future in any way, shape, or form. I think this is the future. Streaming is the future. So you can create that without having to go and buy this legacy cable company and have all these ridiculous deals that prevent you from doing exactly what I'm doing in the here and now. So maybe it doesn't make the most business sense. Would it just be fun? Sure it would. It would be so much fun, right? I mean, Joe Rogan already out, ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend saying, hey, Elon, I'll take Rachel's gig. You know what? I'll take it. And I'll even wear the glasses and everything. So he's in. season. And then you've got Ashley Sinclair, a conservative influencer. She's like, okay, here's the deal. You put Joe Rogan in for Rachel's spot. You can put Megyn in for the primetime slot. You put Scott Jennings, you know, the guy over at CNN who's constantly sort of dancing circles around them. Put him in just for fun. And you could have a version of The View, imagine, without the rapies. And then the Babylon-B. We love the Babylon-B. They could make their own late night show. Hey, that would be great programming, right? Would it not? It would be. It would be. Maybe I'd even go back to CNBC in that arena, shall we say. I used to work there. Bloomberg too, Fox Business. I've had the honor of working, if you want to call it that, at all of the business networks. So immediately all the memes started and everybody joked about, oh, Rachel Maddow, she's crying. This is a scene from one of her shows a few years ago. She was actually legitimately, I guess, really upset about something with immigration, but they just put a new lower third on the bottom. Check it out.
Hold on. To at least 3. Can we put up the graphic of this?
And, you put up the graphic and then she really starts. So in the meme that's making the rounds, it's kind of a crude graphic. And they put it up and all of a sudden, then she's really, really, really losing it. Let me see.
I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. No.
Okay, so what do you think? You've got Joe Rogan in there taking over for Rachel. You could do a heck of a, but Tucker could make it back too. Listen, you could have a lot of fun, I think, with programming. The question really does become, is this a worthwhile business opportunity? You got to think about the tax implication. You got to think about really the longevity in the businesses. I don't know if they're really there, but if anybody, let me just say, if anybody could figure out how to make lemonade out of lemons, I think it would be Elon Musk. I really do. I think that he could actually think about this innovatively, and he could tear up those cable contracts so you're not dependent on getting a few bucks from a cable outlet for each home. All those homes are just cutting the cord anyway. And you could take what's there and maybe create more and more streamed content for X. And that would be pretty compelling and that would be pretty incredible. So obviously they're nervous over at MSNBC. It was bad enough that Trump won and now Elon Musk is talking about buying the place. That's driving them all crazy. So they started hitting the phones to figure out if any other billionaires might come in and help come to their rescue. Let's go over to CNN with their media reporter or media analyst, or is he just like a media commentator? I don't know. He used to have a job there, then he got fired. Now he's somehow back on the air. Let's listen.
This ends the argument about how important these social media platforms are. Over the weekend, for example, Musk is joking, I think, about maybe trying to buy MSNBC. It seems he's just trying to troll. Comcast is not making MSNBC up for sale right now. Maybe something will change in a few years. But those tweets, those posts from Musk, those memes that he's posting, it just speaks to his power and his center of power throughout this incoming administration.
But elaborate on that potential joke. He used some of the same phrasing that he used a few years ago when he ended up actually buying Twitter, when he said, how much is it? Just fairly casually. Yes. It would seem that, yes, there is a fair amount of trolling going on right now, but at the same time, Comcast is cleaving off a part of the business that could potentially be an affordable acquisition. Do you think that there's any possibility that it's more than a joke?
Well, some inside MSNBC are taking Musk's comments seriously, whether he's trolling or not. There is a serious undercurrent to this, and it is the following. In some countries where we've seen democratic backsliding, where some oppositional media outlets have been captured by the government, a process known as media capture, this is exactly what happens. A ally of the leader, like Musk, comes in and buys a media outlet that is viewed as oppositional, and then he turns the content and makes it more friendly to the person in power. That has happened before in other countries. That's part of the concern when, even if Elon Musk is just joking, that's part of the concern here when it comes to MSNBC. But at the moment, this spinoff that Comcast is doing will take at least a year to complete. There's no immediate sale or any of that, I'm told, that is planned. But the idea that Musk talks about it, he likes to say the most ironic outcome is the most likely. And in this case, it would be pretty ironic if he controlled MSNBC.
Yeah, we still have more than a year of TV.
What he's actually getting at is Hungary, right? And Viktor Orban, who has sort of a hold on the media, if you would. And he's saying, oh my gosh, like this would be so bad. You'd have Elon Musk, he'd come in, he'd have a hold on this media. The only thing I'd say about that is like, who do you think has actually had a hold on the media? I mean, like, let's not kid ourselves, right? What do you think we've been listening to for the last however many? Let me see if I can find one of my favorites here for you, because this is Joe Scarborough doubling down just days before the election, right, on how awful Trump is, his supporters are, how you just need to excommunicate them. They are the worst thing in the world. They are effectively, he's invoking World War II and Nazism. And I mean, it's bad. Okay, this is really bad. So you mean to tell me that like no one had a hold on the media already? Let's be honest. Watch.
Where can we meet in the middle? On this question, we're past that. You can't meet. If they voted for Trump in 16, whatever. They voted for Trump in 20, they knew exactly what they were doing. If they vote for Donald Trump in 2024, and I've said it on my show, I'll say it here, they're knowingly voting for a fascist. They're voting for a racist. They're voting for somebody that wants to put this country 200 years in the back. And so I'm not trying to figure them out. I'm trying to figure out how we get people out who love democracy, who love freedom, who love the rights of all Americans, how to get them to the voting booth. Because that's how we save our country.
I'm just saying, that was everyone in the media. And I don't need to, torture you by going back and showing all those clips, but you've seen them before. From CNN to ABC News to CBS Evening News to NBC News to MSNBC to all of them. I mean, look at the New York Times, look at the Washington Post, look at everything. You mean to tell me that the left didn't have a full-on total grab, 100% right down? I mean, they had it all. They had the media. And now somebody comes along and he bought X. And maybe he'll buy a cable entity. But guess what? There's a lot of streamers out there on the left and the right. Thank you very much. And we still have, we don't really have anything that's neutral. Let's be perfectly honest with one another. If you think PBS is neutral, I got news for you. They're part of the whole game too, right? So there's nothing that's neutral. You might as well at least have both sides so that people have some optionality in this. This is not a quote unquote media grab. This is a chance to get maybe a little bit of the media that might be out there. Why do you think Fox did so well? Okay, because Fox actually offered an alternative. Why do you think Newsmax has been exploding? Because it offers an alternative. So Elon's saying, hey, maybe there's some room for some more people at the table. And this flips them out. It freaks them out so badly. I mean, I'm looking at Joy Reid in this clip, and she's trying to, basically tell everyone you shouldn't be bothering with anybody in your family for Thanksgiving if they voted for Trump. And it's as though she's looking over her shoulder. She's really scared. I mean, Elon might be there, right?
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast and things get ugly and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them. And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, and people may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving with you, I think you're kind of missing the point of what people are upset about. They're afraid. And autocracy and fascism are things that are legitimate to be afraid of. So you may want to step back.
So we're already in a fascist. I mean, he's not even in the White House yet. but somehow you should be fearful of fascism. Come on. I mean, what do you get? 21% of the audience. I was looking at, this is great. There's a new CBS News poll that just came out. Nearly 60% of the country is psyched that Trump is there. People are like, okay, finally, maybe my grocery prices will come down. And by the way, he was there for 4 years. Are we dealing with a fascist World War II scenario? No, we're not, right? So it's actually highly irresponsible for her to do that. But she's trying to stoke people's fears. This is what it's about. So fine, you know what? I'm a big believer. Everybody ought to be able to say what they want to say. So Joy, you don't have to whisper, honey. You don't have to whisper. I mean, Elon doesn't care. Okay, let me whisper that. Elon doesn't care. You can say what you want all day long. Nobody wants to watch. I mean, that's why your ratings are down 51%. I get it. You know, your company doesn't want anything to do with you anymore because you guys don't make any money and it's a dying business. And sure, you know, there's going to be headaches along the way because you're always making noise for really gross, grotesque reasons like this. I mean, then there was this one. I mean, this woman, this is, in my estimation, really, really grotesque. Same lady here, Joy Reid, saying, I will not do it justice. I'm just going to let you watch. Again, hey, freedom of speech, you do you. But nobody actually wants to watch this right now. And MSNBC and CNBC and Sci-Fi and E and the rest of them are getting sold off in SpinCo because Comcast doesn't want to have anything to do with you people, Joy.
Hey, I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly white progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends because I don't think they're coming. But yeah, I think black women are now on the Save Black Women, Prioritize Black Men, and Prioritize Black Communities, Black businesses, and that. And, you know, the black spaces, but Save America, Save the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
So where are you going? I mean, I clearly not to the MAGA party, right? You don't want anything to do with Donald Trump, but you don't want to help remake the Democrat Party, which you helped destroy. I mean, that's exactly what happened. These characters over at MSNBC, they destroyed the Democrat Party. And now she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, this is really, really messed up. Can you imagine if Elon buys this thing? Elon buys it, and guess what? Everybody's fired.
We could all be fired a year from now. Whenever this happens, you never know what's going to happen.
No, you never know. We'll see. A year from now, SpinCo happens, and then it's like another year to the tax thing settles out. And then what? Well, we're coming up on 3 years. I wonder who's going to be running for president. By then, it might just be J.D. Vance. And then suddenly Elon swoops in and gets this network for a pretty penny, because by then it will really be in dire shape. I'll be very interested to see where this stock actually trades. But this is what's going on, okay? So you get a bunch of crazies over there at MSNBC that are really, really upset because the election was lost by their team. They cannot believe that they suddenly lack this relevance anymore after they told you, how dare you? How dare you go out and vote for the guy that they hated so much? And now their network's up for sale. So their network is up for sale. There are pay cuts going on. Rachel Maddow, for example, just had to take a $5 million pay cut, down from $30 to $25 million for a show that she hosts once a week. Go figure. Apparently her ratings are that good. Not that good. Not that good. Not that good considering that the company's getting sold. All right. Anyway, Mika and Joe, they see the handwriting on the wall right after the election. The weekend after, they go down to Mar-a-Lago, right? They do this whole song and dance and try and make nice with Donald Trump.
Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time.
Oopsie.
Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Right. I keep saying because they're like negotiating North Korea or something crazy like that. And they're very, very like self-involved. So this is somehow a very big deal. They went down there. Of course, their viewers are flipping out because the viewers are like, wait a second, but didn't you tell us that he was absolutely evil? Why are you talking to absolute evil then? We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to Jack Smith in just a moment as well. And we're going to get to The View. But first, a quick shout out for our friends over at American Heart for Gold. You're going to get up to $15,000 right now with a free silver if you have a qualifying gold purchase offer from them and you use my name. That's the key. You got to use my name. One of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show. You can text my name, Trish, Trish. Just text it over to 65532. You can also go to Trish Loves Gold. Who can forget that? Trish does love gold. TrishLovesGold.com. Trish Loves Gold. Text Trish to 65532 or call them at 1-844-495-1115. 1-844-495-1115. But anyway, this is certainly, if nothing else, quite fun. Don't you think? To think about Elon Musk actually making a purchase like this and all the things that would happen. I mean, Junior saying, hey, you know, I got this idea. He responded, and it's exactly the same response. How much does it cost, as he did with Twitter? And everybody's kind of just really into this right now. The memes keep on coming and coming and coming and coming. And the truth is, you know, I would just say that this would be a wonderful thing. A wonderful, wonderful thing. Because we need diversity in our media. And we don't have enough of it. You know, hopefully this sale actually will inspire a little bit more. But, you know, the handwriting's on the wall. They lost the election. And yet these people are so insane that they're doubling down on terrible stuff, like the MSNBC headline, right? That they took down eventually, but it had already served its purpose, I guess. And people were kind of astounded. Lincoln Riley's killer never stood a chance was their headline. This is their legal analysis. It's like, guys, enough already. Don Jr. saying, hey, like, this is bad. Like, why are you tweeting this stuff out? Like, you cannot make up this level of depravity. These people are pretty darn sick. So why are they, this is like, they're kind of masochistic. They're doing this to themselves. They are making themselves irrelevant every single day. The truth is, nobody respects the mainstream media at all. The jig is up. People know what they are. And they're over it, right? They're here. Thank you for subscribing, share, like, do all that good stuff. They're here. They're getting their news. Live streams like this where we don't have any teleprompter or any middle management saying you can do this, that, and the other. And they're getting it on X, and they're getting it from a variety of places. Elon making this point, right? Very clearly saying to everybody, guess what? You know, just after Trump won, he said, you are the media now. X what you know, X what you hear, X what you see. He's trying to encourage people to take some ownership, right? Don't always rely on these clowns getting paid millions and millions of dollars to interpret the news for you by way of the State Department or whoever's controlling the narrative out of the White House in any given time. And there are those at MSNBC that really, really, really don't like that Elon's telling people that they have this power, right? Because it makes them effectively powerless. What they've realized in all of this is that they have much, much less power. I mean, it's why Joe and Mika are going down to Mar-a-Lago. They're trying to court some favor maybe with the president because they want a little bit of power, maybe with the executives in the new Spinco. They want to seem like they know what they're talking about when they talk about DC, but we've all seen through them. The power is not with the mainstream media anymore. It is over here in these alternative platforms, which I'm thrilled to be part of. Anyway, the Axios founder, he doesn't like this. He's one of, you know, the buddies over there on the MSNBC show. He just collected a big award and gave this giant speech. MSNBC, they were clapping like seals over this one.
Because we love it. We do it because it matters. The work that we do matters. Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter. Any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like, that's nonsense. Like, being a reporter is hard, really hard. You have to care. You have to do the hard work. You have to get up every single day and say, I want to get to the closest approximation of the truth without any fear, without any favoritism. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
Yeah, come on, slow clap, everybody. Whoa. First of all, I've got to say.
He's just great, isn't he? I gotta say, listen, this is part of the problem, right? This kind of egomania that feeds them. We are the journalists. We control the news cycle. We control the narrative. Therefore, we have all the power. And all of a sudden, that power cycle has been completely broken by none other than X. I mean, back in the day, it was sort of Twitter and it was Donald Trump. And Donald Trump realized pretty quickly, hey, I can get to the people directly. I actually don't have to wait around for 60 minutes to come and interview me. I can actually tweet and I can talk to them. And there's this streaming thing. And guess what? I can go live and I can get all my information out directly to people and they will consume it. And I don't have to go through this sort of kingmaker thing that happens in mainstream media. It's like the mainstream media decides who's going to win. Mainstream media decides who's going to get through the primaries. I mean, they have an effect. They do have an effect. I would say that, if you're not giving anybody else any airtime, then they're not going to have as much sort of Q factor, if you would. When people go to the voting booths, they're not going to vote. They're not going to know who they are. And Donald Trump figured out, wait a second, I don't need to rely on those guys. I can do it myself. And therein is a big part of the problem. So now it's going even further because it's not just political candidates that can suddenly go direct to the voters, direct to the consumers. It's that everybody can have a viewpoint and everybody can publish that viewpoint. And there's nothing more scary for the mainstream media than being replaced. Right? So this is why they just love Jim's speech over there on MSNBC, and they had a few more things to say about it.
Everything up and down about not only their alternative set of facts, but alternative set of facts about what people like you do. And I love how you connected reporters in Mississippi in the 1960s to reporters fighting for their life to get the story out in the Middle East today. Jim, it was very powerful.
Really good.
Very powerful. Even if even if we had to beep you more than we would if we ran a Dave Chappelle concert.
I like
still
it.
good.
Jim's mild-mannered.
He
preached it, though. The cadence, I might get him ordained.
Well, let me just say, why this is so important right now, more than ever, is because critics of the press are feeling more empowered than ever, to lie more than ever. I've had friends for years going, I'm so overwhelmed, Joe, by the news. I don't read the news. I go, where do you get your news then? Epic Times. I go,
oh God.
You get your news from a website run by Chinese by conspiracy theorists in a Chinese religious cult. That is where you get the no. Or if social media, people lying every day, every hour, every minute about the news.
We're supposed to trust you people? You really think that anybody is going to trust you after this CRAP? This junk.
We're past that.
He's sitting, by the way, with a guy who reportedly got $500K to his organization just days before interviewing Kamala Harris on MSNBC. Guess what? All of these people are for sale.
You can't meet if they voted for Trump in 16, whatever. They voted for Trump in 20, they knew exactly what they were doing. If they vote for Donald Trump in 2024, and I've said it on my show, I'll say it here, they're knowingly voting for a fascist. They're voting for a racist. They're voting for somebody that wants to put this country 200 years in the back.
And yet, guess what? Joey, they voted for them. Did you see all the red? Okay. So that happened despite you saying that every single day on your show. But, you know, some of your viewers are a little upset right now because they don't understand why you went down to Mar-a-Lago. If in fact you believe all that. Do you believe all that? I don't think you do. I think that's the problem. That was all a song and a dance to try and scare the heck out of people. Rosie's not too happy with you.
Hold, please. So Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. It's the last time I ever watched Morning Joe. Period. End of statement. Unreal. Unreal. For months you were telling us he's the worst thing that could happen to this country and democracy. And then you go kiss his ring? Despicable. Despicable you. Both of you.
Okay, so Rosie's pretty upset, but you know what, in a way, like she should be. If you actually believed what they were saying, then how could they just turn around the next day and pretend like nothing happened? I mean, if Joe Biden believed that Donald Trump was an existential threat to democracy, then and how's he like okay with everything? How's everything so hunky-dory right now? Corinne Jean-Pierre was asked this very question.
It's been, more than 2 weeks since the election. This was an election that elected a man that President Biden has repeatedly referred to as an existential threat. So why is it that the American people have not heard President Biden talk about this threat since the election?
Because there was an election and the American people spoke. Mm-hmm. The will of the American people were very clear. And so the president is now in a situation where we have to deal with a peaceful transfer of power. We have to respect the will of the American people. And that's what you have been seeing from this president, trying to lead by example to make sure that that happens.
What do you know? Apparently the existential threat is no more. It's pretty incredible. I mean, they are so convinced that somehow these little podcasts like mine are influencing people in negative ways that, that they, by the way, do not do. Let me just say for the record, I have an opinion. I wear it on my sleeve, right? Sometimes it gets me in a lot of trouble and I'm okay with that. I'm willing to just deal because I'm a big believer that I should be able to say exactly what I think. But I do actually try to really make sure I know what I'm thinking and what I'm saying before I say it. Unlike too many members of this liberal media that think that they can manipulate something for their viewpoint. I mean, hey, look, I've called out Trump plenty of times, including in August of 2020, because I was like, you guys can't keep printing money. We're going to have massive inflation. And, he gave another stimulus check, the second one, the stimmy money. You had Powell just printing. And then, of course, it was made extremely bad by Joe Biden, who got in there and gave a third stimmy check. Powell kept printing. And then you had Nancy and Chuck doing everything they could to spend trillions of dollars more. So sure, you get inflation, but you get my picture. In other words, I'm always going to tell you what I think. And hopefully I'm smart enough, I'm honest enough to be able to look at all of this comprehensively. But I don't think Mika and Joe are either honest nor smart enough to do such a thing. They actually think that you can manipulate the economy based on what people are saying in the news. Clearly you couldn't, right? Because did you see the inflation numbers? I want to go back to 2022. This is an excerpt of them from their little show back in 2020. So a couple of years ago, here they are talking about, oh my gosh, what happens if Trump were to win?
Who were Trump voters and are still Trump supporters. They go, yeah, you guys are going crazy. He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, if you look at the...
Really? Okay, this is going to get good.
Yamiche is right. He's doing exactly what he said. It's...
Right.
It's...
You can control what people think? You guys really think that? Well, if you can control what people think, then I mean, who needs things like the stock market, by the way, which has been on a tear ever since Donald Trump came in? Incidentally, Friday afternoon, right after I got off the air with you, I was over on 76 Research. We got the appointment of Scott Bessent. He's who I told you all along I believed would actually get it. Sure enough, really brilliant hedge fund guy. And the markets really like that. You had treasuries rallying today. Go over to investinmaga.com. If you haven't done that, it's all free. It's part of our 76 Research offering. 76 Research is the financial company I started with Rob Horton, brilliant investor, 20 some odd years on Wall Street, running billions of dollars. He gets it. I get it. Listen, we're trying to cut through the noise, right? Because there's a lot of noise with the likes of Mika and Joe. The reality is, no, guys, you can't actually totally somehow change what people think. I mean, listen, on the margin, maybe you have a shot at least of inspiring, right? Maybe there's a little bit more excitement. You look at these numbers that are coming to us right now out of CBS News, and I'll tell you, they're really good. They're really, really good. I mean, we're seeing 60% of Americans say they feel positive, like for the first time, about the future. But this is what we were dealing with. So, you know, you guys could get on television, and Mika and Joe, in fact, did, and they tried to say that the economy wasn't an issue. Just look at the stock market. It's all great. You know, what are people complaining about? And I was like, this is what people are complaining about. Okay, you can't massage your way around this. You can do a lot to kind of rally the troops and excite them, and consumer sentiment is actually important. Consumer confidence is really important. And I think Trump does a really good job at that. But if you're looking at K through 12 food costs up 70% or car insurance up 57%, you're not going to be able to get away from those, facts. Dare I say facts? I mean, these are not alternative facts. These are actual facts. And it's like pot calling kettle all day long here. And guess what the result was? The result was a massive red wave that even Joe Scarborough had to admit to.
Well, I mean, so much to go through, so many questions. I came onto the set and Willie said, hey, by the way, because we were talking about the historic nature of this sweep.
Yeah.
And Willie said, do you know, he only lost Illinois by 4 points.
4 points in
New Jersey by 5. I mean, you talk about we had talked about a red wave 2 years ago that never materialized. This is I've got to say, this is the biggest red wave I've seen since Ronald Reagan's 49 state victory in 1984. It seems every Republican across the country improved.
Yeah. And this is despite everything you did. Hey, quick shout out for the store. This is Thanksgiving week. Can you believe it? I'm getting my Christmas lights up pretty soon. The hope is for, day after Thanksgiving. Anyway, we're thinking about Christmas. If you want to show your appreciation and support and help get the word out for the Trish Regan show, you can do that and get all your Christmas gifts too at trishregan.shop. Trishregan.shop, we get hats, we get mugs, live for your die, etc. I just wanted to mention that to you guys. But, clearly all of their concern, all of their angst, it's like it fell on deaf ears. Is it because nobody's watching? That's part of it. It's also because I think people were just exhausted by everything that had been happening. I mean, you think about all of the cases, the federal cases, and then you had, multiple state cases from Letitia James to Alvin Bragg, that one getting dismissed the other day, to Fani Willis and all of her issues down there in Georgia. I mean, people at some point were just getting so darn tired of this, and rightly so. And now again today, a new development yet again, and we have learned that Jack Smith has dropped this case against the federal case and federal interference charges against Donald Trump associated with J6.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good day. We're coming on the air with breaking news about President-elect Donald Trump. The Justice Department special counsel Jack Smith just filed a motion to dismiss the federal criminal case against the president-elect over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The news comes after NBC News learned the Justice Department had been planning to wind down its federal cases against Mr. Trump. It also comes as NBC News learned that Smith and his team plan to resign before Mr. Trump returns to the White House.
Ooh, okay. So this is not good. This is not good for the Democrats because it's sort of game over. And everybody's looking back on this and saying, so what was that all about, really? I mean, why were you constantly doing this? And I think that question actually does need to get answered. Think about Letitia James. I mean, as recently as a few months ago, she was out there saying, hey, I'm not intimidated by Trump. Even if he wins, I'm still moving forward. I mean, this is one vindictive woman who is about to have her case thrown out of the Court of Appeals any second now. Like literally could happen when I'm on this show. And yet this is what she's spouting.
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to separate.
Okay, so she's not done. I mean, Jack Smith is done. He's filed a motion there to dismiss. He's just dismissed it. You've got Alvin Bragg dismissing it. And, well, you know, Fannie, she can't get out of her own way. She can't get off her fanny because she had a little indiscretion along the way, which kind of makes it really tough to move forward. In other words, her whole office is going to probably get voted out, or not voted out, just kicked out. And then they have to start the whole thing over again. But it makes you ask the question, like, what was this really about? They just wanted to make sure he couldn't run again. And I think people were disgusted by this. It's partly why he won. I mean, after a while, it got nauseating. There were times I couldn't even, I mean, I do this every day, right? And I was like, wait, what lawsuit are we on now? Let me try and keep these straight. So over on MSNBC, they're flipping out. CNN too. They just can't believe this is happening. This day has come. And they're worried about retaliation. They're worried about retaliation because you see Pam Bondi, who just took over for Gates, she's going to be the AG. And this woman is no joke. Like, she's already made it clear that this is not cool, what went down. And I suspect Pam has a lot of questions and she's going to demand answers, which they're already setting up for. And they're really, really worried. This woman on MSNBC says, if this happens, it's going to be really bad. Watch.
Well, so let me ask you very directly. Are you concerned for Jack Smith under a new Justice Department? Are you concerned for the people who worked with him on this case?
Well, some of the Trump supporters are suggesting that there should be retaliatory measures taken against the lawyers in the Department of Justice for doing their job. That would be extraordinary and a real misuse of power and a subversion of the rule of law. So we'll see whether, you know, President Biden preemptively pardons people who would be wrongfully charged. Who knows? But to use the levers of power in a revenge mode, which is what Trump has suggested, is a misuse of presidential authority and a subversion of the rule of law.
Actually, he hasn't suggested that. He, in fact, said the exact opposite. Howie Kurtz, whom I used to work with over at Fox, has a media show. He interviewed President Trump just a couple of weeks before the election. And President Trump said, actually, I'm not interested in that. Like, this is not about revenge. I don't need to go after people for this reason. But, you know, and he's nice about it. But I would just say maybe Pam Bondi isn't as nice about it, right?
Well, I was a prosecutor. I was a homicide prosecutor for 18 years. I was Florida's first female attorney general. And I was special advisor to Donald Trump, Office of White House Counsel. But most importantly, I'm his friend.
And I think as a friend, she's wondering, and by the way, as an American, like, what was that really about? I mean, I worry about it as American, and as an American, I say, if they can go after you, and there's like, no, they're there, but they can go after you in order to try and beat you down, is that some kind of fear tactic that they're employing? And don't we kind of need to be making sure that that doesn't ever happen again? Either side, right? Because you could flip the tables, and it could be Donald Trump doing that to Democrats as easily as it could be Democrats, as it was, doing it to Donald Trump. So from the perspective of, as a nation, don't we need to understand what really went down and just ensure that we don't do that to political candidates that the establishment doesn't want or doesn't like? We can't do that kind of thing. That actually, to me, is sort of worthwhile to explore. I want to know exactly what went into the decision making to bring all these cases about. Here's a representative from California telling, I guess this is MSNBC or CNN, I don't know, I get them mixed up sometimes these days. Anyway, going on about how this is going to be so bad, retaliation, etc.
And as you know, former Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz is out. Pam Bondi is in for Attorney General for President-elect Trump. She has been quoted in recent months as saying that the investigators should be investigated inside the Justice Department, inside the federal government. When you hear those kinds of comments, what's your reaction to that?
Well, they're concerning, and I think that she should be asked these questions at a hearing. But my hope is, I think the American people want to turn the page. They want to focus on solving their problems, on inflation, on the cost of groceries and rent, on a secure border with a humane immigration policy. That's why they elected President Trump. I don't think they want the Donald Trump to go politicize the judiciary or Justice Department, even if he believes that it was politicized against him, which I reject. But I think people really want us, the country, to move on. And I think that those questions need to be asked. Who is she?
So maybe people want us to move on. Everybody obviously wants lower inflation. Everybody wants to enjoy the party. But simultaneously, I do think that people want to say, hey, what just happened? What were those 4 years really about? Don't we deserve some answers on that? Quick reminder, one of our great sponsors here on the show. We love our sponsors, right? Because they help make this all free for you guys. Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature. I take my fruits and veggies there every single day. They're gummies. They get all my vitamins, my multivitamins in. Thanks to Balance of Nature. They send it to my house. You can get this at 50% off. It's the best deal I actually have ever seen from Balance of Nature. So they must be running it year end, knowing, of course, you guys are at all these parties and holiday stuff, and you kind of get exhausted, right? And it's important to keep your health up. Really, really important. So go check out Balance of Nature, 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. The discount code is TRISH, T-R-I-S-H. And listen, the stuff is really good. You can read all about the testimonials on their website. Of course, mine being that finally my vitamin D is back up. Thank goodness. But you can see these people are really, really upset. And they're going out there and they're sort of like trying to make this noise saying, how dare you retaliate? That's going to be really bad. Nobody wants retaliation. I would just sort of counter that with, listen, there's some really weird stuff that went down, and we want to make sure that that never happens again for your side or our side. So in the interest of actually making sure that we preserve the founding fathers' intention, shouldn't we understand just exactly what went down? I mean, you didn't come up with anything, but you sure made his life miserable and our lives, the country's lives, miserable for 4 whole years. I think it's kind of a disgrace. Meanwhile, the representative from New York, who has become kind of a stooge for the Biden administration, he's out there saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with Hunter Biden talking to these clients of his and getting his dad, who's the vice president at the time, to conference. And nothing wrong with that, nothing to see here. I mean, this guy is so hypocritical. He's now saying, gosh darn it, it's the AG's fault. It's Garland's fault. He should have brought these charges way earlier. We know why they didn't bring the charges earlier, right? That was because they wanted to get this in the middle of the news cycle to try and disrupt the campaign. Election interference, as the former, now newly president-elect has called it.
Congressman, you know that the American people were well aware of the charges that Donald Trump was facing in this case and several others. What do you make of the argument that they essentially served as a jury, and by re-electing him and now making him president-elect, they have weighed in on these matters?
I don't give any credence to that argument. I think what was very clear is that people voted for Donald Trump because they thought that he was going to improve the lives of the middle class, and perhaps in addition that he would secure the border. They did not vote for him to dismantle our democracy, to attack the Constitution, to politicize all of our agencies, and certainly not as a referendum on his criminal cases.
Again, what do you think you guys did? In all seriousness, what do you think you put everybody through for the last 4 years? Let's make sure it never happens again,
So
right?
we wanted to lay down a marker to say, and put everyone on record, Republicans included, some of his cabinet picks.
Dan Goldman thinks that Donald Trump is going to try and run again in 2028. Watch this.
Clearly are prioritizing political loyalists, that Donald Trump is well on his way to dismantling our government and the way that it operates.
these people are like real Debbie Downers, aren't they? I mean, real Debbie Downers. Listen, I'll just say this. There's still a lot of questions out there. You still have a lot of states insisting that they got to do their thing. I mean, Letitia James, you saw her, right?
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to
Okay,
separate.
all right. So, like, there are states like that. There are AGs like that. I mean, she wants to become the mayor, but we'll see. We'll see. And the problem becomes, how much are they going to get in the way? I mean, she's obviously in the way. She's trying to come in the way between a bank and an individual on that transaction, which frankly, I just think is bad for New York City and is bad for the American economy. So this is bigger than Trump, right? Letitia James doing what she's doing, or all of these, Jack Smith doing what he did, Alvin Bragg, Fannie Willis. I mean, this is bigger than one individual because it sets a really dangerous precedent. And that's what you need to get to the bottom of, understanding how that came about and why it went down. And for those that are going to continue their lawsuits, like the likes of Letitia James, even though I do believe the Court of Appeals is going to toss it out, what does that tell you about all of them? I mean, even the mayor, for example, in Denver saying we're not going to allow anybody to be deported from our town. I mean, if you've got the federal government in there saying, well, we have to go through with these deportations and the American people voted for it, what happens next? I think we know. Said so eloquently in the words of Mike Davis, the attorney that is representing Donald Trump, on my friend Benny's show. Listen.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. And we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights.
Boo! Okay, so there could be some of that coming. We'll see. Again, does Letitia stay in the spot? I don't know. Do these mayors and these governors, the governor of Massachusetts, for example, insisting that she's going to protest any deportations, et cetera? I don't know. But this is going to set up a bit of a power play between federal and state government for sure. Meanwhile, there's a power play going on over at ABC. ABC's The View is struggling day in and day out with their little quarrels, with the tension on the sets, with the cat fights. And now suddenly, strangely, Whoopi Goldberg's like doing some weird 180. Like she's getting after Ana Navarro saying, hey, stop. When Navarro starts attacking Trump, this is kind of weird. Watch.
I think what we're all saying is we're going to sit and watch. We're going to wait and see because we can't do anything else except.
I'm not going to wait and see. I mean, this guy is told us he's a retribution. He's going to be a dictator.
There's nothing to be done until you know what you're fighting. It's pissing in the wind doesn't help. You just get a wet face.
But I mean, what I'm saying is I have no false expectations that at 78 he's going to all of a sudden turn into a thing that's not human. And I'm not going to spend.
Right? It's like nails on the chalkboard. They're just talking over each other. But Whoopi's kind of trying to make the point that until you actually see something happen, and she's right on this, why are you going to get all worked up about it? Why would you? Well, I think they're worked up about it, and it's not because they're actually worried that Donald Trump is going to do some crazy stuff. I mean, they're just worked up because they know their network is about to be sold. Disney has already said it would love to sell it. I mean, they just can't find anybody who wants to buy it, right? Maybe they could do a spin-co. I don't know if the company's big enough. ABC itself is really big enough to do a spin-co like MSNBC is doing, CNBC, all of those companies there, the cable properties of Comcast. But I will say this, tensions are super high.
That they fund students who are already attending private schools. So people with money get those vouchers, use the vouchers to pay less for their private schools, and their kids go on to do well. Where do you get the money from vouchers? You pull those money from those poor schools, poor schools. Let me just finish this. So wealthy families are overwhelmingly the recipients of school voucher tax credits. I'm not making this up. This has been studied. In 2020, a 2020 study found that only about half of states with voucher programs require teachers to have a bachelor's degree, require teachers to have training. require teachers to have
So that's just
licensing,
not my
require
experience.
participating
So the
private schools.
If I may get in, just to make it a conversation.
But because I have children and because I looked at private
I went
schools,
to public school. I believe you got to go to private school.
There is zero statistical
You got to go to
significance.
private school.
Because nobody can figure out what's being said here right now. No, there is no last thing right now. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back.
Yes.
Because you can't.
Yeah, and they're just angry, right? So they're just talking over each other all the time. And I do think, and I've said this to you guys before, I think what's really feeding into that is the realization they are going to be no more, at least not as they currently exist. And so that pressure is being felt. Bob Iger said as much 2 years ago out in Sun Valley in a clip that I've played you before. You can go back and watch it in Friday's show, of the CEO of Disney, which owns ABC, which produces and owns The View, saying, listen, like these are businesses that are no growth businesses. And we are looking to be expansive, was the actual direct word he used, expansive in our thinking about these no growth businesses or low growth businesses. They don't want to have this sort of noose around their neck with these programs that are so low growth, not doing anything, and really, frankly, costly from just the headache perspective and the headline perspective. So consequently, I do think things are going to change. I really do. I've said this for a while, but trust me, that show cannot live on in its current incarnation. It's just too expensive. The hosts are too expensive. The studio audience is too expensive. The multi-producers, hundreds of people that are working there, it's too expensive. So they got to find a creative new way to do it. And what will probably most likely happen is Iger sells off ABC, a private equity firm comes in, and they bleed it dry for the profits. I mean, I don't see anybody thinking about how do we turn this around, because there's nothing to turn around. I mean, that is a nothing show. Forgive me for even showing it, because I get it. It's like nauseating to have to listen to it, and you don't want to go that down market. But what's weird too, let me see if I can show you this little clip of Fareed Zakaria. Fareed suddenly too over at CNN is like drinking the Kool-Aid. This is kind of funny. He actually came out and said over the weekend, he's got like this weekend show. He's very pompous. He's very full of himself. Listen, I've heard him speak at the end of an evening once, a charity event. And my God, this guy went on for like an hour and a half. Everybody just wanted to go home, but he's tone deaf. He can't read the room. He doesn't realize how exhausting he sounds, how annoying he sounds. So Fareed Zakaria coming out on his show. It looks like we don't actually have it. Maybe I can just read to you. Oh, you know what? I stand corrected. Maybe we do. Fareed Zakaria coming out on his show and just going on and on about how great, yeah, believe it or not, Doge is going to be. So he thinks that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are just brilliant, and it's going to be amazing to see what they're able to accomplish at Doge. It's like, Fareed, buddy, like, who are you? What were we listening to the other day? Are they telling you all to just say something nice, anything nice at all? Or maybe it's that you just don't want to go the way of one, I don't know, Chris Wallace? Chris Wallace, who just had to leave the other day. He gave a big swan song. He's leaving CNN. Apparently he wants to go be a podcaster now. Huh. Oh, here's the Fareed story. See this? Okay, Fareed Zakaria is lauding Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy as brilliant. They can deliver on GOP's central promise of the last 70 years. In other words, they can cut government expenses. And he's really excited about that. And he wants us all to know, wow, what do you know? So that was a big deal over the weekend. And I think that you're starting to see some people sort of say, you know, maybe we were out over our skis in more ways than one. I mean, after all, we don't want to become the Spinco. And we also don't want to become, say, Chris Wallace, who is going to be leaving CNN because, well, they were canceling both his shows. I didn't even know he really had one show, let alone two. And now he's putting his home up for sale for $6.4 million. Maybe he'll move to Texas or Florida or New Hampshire, one of those states that has no income tax, right? I know you guys don't want him in Florida or Texas, and I'm sure they don't want him in New Hampshire either. But anyway, that could be something that's in the works. It's just funny to see all of these people coming out of the woodwork now, trying to say, well, maybe it's not that bad. I applaud them. You know what? You should recognize that it's not that bad. But I'm kind of with Rosie, right? Like I'm having a hard time forgiving you all for everything that you did. Funny meme making the rounds right now as we think about Jack Smith and what happened there. Check it out. Oh, goodness. Oh, I got to watch again. Look, I got all these graphics up over it. Here we go.
Dirty laws.
Yeah. Trump won that round. And he's winning the rounds with the media, and he's winning the rounds with the people. I want to get to a new poll that just came out of CBS News because it's very, 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 very interesting to see. In light of everything, right? You get it. But before I do, just a quick shout out again for our friends at Balance of Nature. Balanceofnature.com. Use code word Trish for 50% off. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751. Balance of Nature. Code word Trish, my name. You get 50% off and free shipping. So it's a really good deal. And you know what? You need to take your multivitamins. I needed to take my multivitamins, especially right now. I'll tell you, I don't think I've been on like cloud nine since the election. I've been so happy. I'm like with the people in this new poll because there's a lot of optimism out there. I'm part of that optimism right now. I think there's great stuff ahead. It's one of the reasons why I do encourage you to go check out 76 Research, 76research.com. We created an Invest in MAGA guide. So it gives you a look at some actual specific names as well as sectors that are really important right now to set up for this just new time, this boom time that I really think is quite a possibility. They got to get a lot of stuff right, but you're starting with a good Treasury Secretary. We'll see what happens over at the Fed. And you're starting with good policies. And to me, policies are like everything, right? They really, really, really matter. And I think Americans, like they had it. They were sick of all the lawsuits. They were nauseating to watch one after another. They wanted some change, and sure enough, they're getting it. And so I'll show you, like, you don't have to take my word for it. This is new proof out today that, you know what, people are psyched right now. They just want to move forward. They want to move forward. They want to move on to better things right now. And that's what we're seeing the chance to do. Here's a new study here, just came out, or a new poll, I should say, from CBS News. And CBS News is letting us know that Americans are thinking very well thus far of the president-elect's handling of presidential transition. You see that? Nearly 60% approve. I mean, you wouldn't know that, right, if you watched, say, The View. And then here's another good one that I think is really important to see in terms of how people feel about Trump and how he'll do as president. Look at that, guys. This is people being very excited. They're optimistic. Check it out. I mean, excited, 54. Now, you do see that it comes a little bit, if you would, on party lines. But nonetheless, when you look overall in terms of how people feel, look at the bottom graphic. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, 31% are happy. 24% are satisfied. So that's a pretty good sort of look at the situation, because that means more than half the country is happy or satisfied, right? They're in good shape, 55% of the country. Only 23% are dissatisfied, but they're not angry. 21% are angry. So that 21%, I guess that's who Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid are really competing for. Rachel once a week there on her show on MSNBC. And maybe The View is trying to compete there for the 21%. I mean, this is what she's hoping to somehow cater to, Joy Reid.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you, and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast, and things get ugly, and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them. And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, people may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote.
So she's telling you, don't go have Thanksgiving dinner with Trump people. Anyway, if you're that worried, you know what, Joy, you better be buying some gold, girl. You know, if this is what it's turning into, some kind of civil war, I do want my gold. I sleep better having my gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com today for more information about how you get up to $15,000 in free silver. Just text my name, Trish, to 65532, 65532. Our sponsors being American Heart for Gold, 1-844-495-1115. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna prepare for Armageddon, I guess we're gonna need that gold after all, right? This is amazing. This is just amazing. We're on the front lines of history together, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I say that a lot, and I'm not kidding. This is incredible, this moment in time, and it's incredible to see what Americans did, really, to take their country back. They were tired of the lawsuits. And so sure enough, special counsel Jack Smith moving today to dismiss the election interference charges against Donald Trump. You have Mershon granting that motion to dismiss in New York. You have Fani Willis trapped up with stuff that only Fani could be trapped up with down in Georgia. And then you have Letitia. We'll see what happens to her. I actually think that she's going to get disbarred. And she should be disbarred. Now, all these Democrats going on the cable channels saying, hey, no, we can't have retribution. I don't think it's actually retribution. I think it is discovery that we need to understand. There's due diligence that needs to be done to understand just exactly what transpired, why it transpired, and how we make sure that that stuff doesn't happen again. Because you can't target your political enemies, and yet that's what they did. And they're going on and on and on about free speech. For goodness sakes, no one on the right had free speech. Heck, they shut down Parler, for goodness sakes. And they were shutting down the Twitter account, remember, at the New York Post, because the New York Post dared to report the truth on the Hunter Biden laptop. You couldn't talk about where COVID may have come from, being that lab in Wuhan, China. Now they've all agreed, yep, that's where it came from. I mean, think about what they did to us. And now they're trying to say we're in a fascist regime. I'm sorry. You know what? There's just another side out there. And people got to hear the other side by going to alternative news sources like this show right here and other places where they got to hear a different point of view. Because we didn't sit there and tell them that wages were up and it was somehow in their head if they didn't get that the economy was doing great. Because you know what? Real wages, adjusted for inflation, they were way down. I'm not going to tell you something and just leave out some really critical, pertinent fact. That's what Morning Joe did. That's what these crazy people did. I mean, listen, Billy, it's good to see you back here. I know you always watch, and I love that you watch. It is so great. It is so great. A piece of my mind is back here. You love my angry beat. I'm not angry. Really, I'm not angry. I'm just enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic about what is going to happen, what can happen, what should happen. And I think that we need to just demand, if you would, more from the system. Because the system shouldn't be able to single-handedly take down anyone that they just don't like. Cat Crazy, good to see you. Alan, Eric, thanks for being here. Swiftest as well. I mean, wow, we get a lot of new names. Are you guys subscribing? Make sure you subscribe, because then you'll know when I'm live. Because it kind of floats. It's usually every afternoon, sometime between noon and 4. It's a big window. That's why you have to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. David, thank you for the nice compliments. Billy, thank you for the compliments. Ian, we are getting there. We're 461. We're going to be 500 by when? What do you think? When can we make it to 500,000 subs? This is all purely organic. This is no marketing. This is no special wizardry. This is just us. And you guys have shared it, you've liked it, you've commented here in the stream and in the comments below. And this is what that does. So that's power to the people, if you would. It is good to see you all. Thank you so much. Oh, we got somebody who just subbed right there. Alan, welcome. Good to have you here. Hiya, Don. Good to see you. Alan, thank you so much. Love it, guys. Okay. Passionate. Phil, thank you. That's the word. Not angry, just passionate. I am very passionate about what I do. I'll see you guys all back here tomorrow. Thanks. Until then.